Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a major development that has stunned Europe, especially the nations surrounding the Baltic Sea. Denmark has just made a decision that is sending shockwaves through governments, militaries, and analysts across the region. This move is not just a simple policy shift. It changes the balance of power in the north, affects NATO's posture, raises concerns in Moscow, and reshapes how the Baltic Sea will operate for years to come. As we break this down, we're going to explore what Denmark decided, why it matters right now, and how it changes the strategic landscape around the Baltic. The Baltic Sea has already been tense after recent conflicts, military escalations, and shifting alliances. But Denmark's new decision takes things to a level no one was fully expecting. Denmark sits in one of the most strategically important places in northern Europe. The Danish Straits are the narrow water passages that connect the Baltic Sea to the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Whoever controls these straits has massive influence over what military vessels, commercial ships, and strategic resources can pass in and out of the Baltic. For decades, Denmark has played a careful balancing act, working with allies while avoiding overly aggressive steps. But now, Denmark has chosen a path that experts describe as bold, historic, and immediately impactful. At the center of this shift is Denmark's growing concern about regional security, especially after Finland and Sweden joined NATO. The Baltic Sea, once a mixed region of NATO and non-NATO countries, is now almost completely surrounded by NATO members, with only Russia left on the outside. This created new opportunities, but also new tensions. Denmark's choice to escalate its defense role in the Baltic was driven by the belief that the region is entering a more dangerous phase. The first major part of Denmark's decision is a dramatic increase in its military presence around the Danish Straits. Denmark has committed to expanding patrols, deploying more maritime surveillance aircraft, upgrading coastal defenses, and enhancing its naval forces. These moves may sound technical, but they transform the strategic reality of the Baltic overnight. The Danish Navy plays a unique role because its location gives it control over some of the only natural choke points Russia needs to navigate to move naval vessels from St. Petersburg or Kaliningrad into the Atlantic. By strengthening its military posture, Denmark signals that it is ready to enforce these routes more aggressively, especially if tensions rise. Russia sees this as a direct challenge because its Baltic fleet is already limited geographically, and now Denmark is enhancing NATO's control even further. Analysts note that this effectively tightens the strategic pressure on Russia's movements, which has triggered frustration in Moscow. Another major part of Denmark's decision is its new agreement with NATO partners to host more surveillance and intelligence operations across the Baltic region. Denmark will now allow additional NATO sensors, radars, communication hubs, and data collection systems to be placed on Danish territory and integrated with Finnish and Swedish networks. This is a huge upgrade for NATO because it gives the alliance a more complete and real-time picture of movements across the entire Baltic Sea. Submarine activity, naval routes, missile deployments, and aircraft movement will now be tracked with unprecedented precision. This decision dramatically reduces Russia's ability to move unnoticed. For the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, this is seen as a massive boost to deterrence, because early warning systems are essential for their defense. For Russia, however, it is viewed as another step that puts NATO's eyes right on its doorstep. Denmark has also decided to invest heavily in new sea mines, advanced drones, anti-submarine systems, and coastal missile defenses. This is a strategic choice based on lessons learned from modern conflicts. Denmark realizes that large-scale traditional warfare is evolving, and future battles will rely on surveillance drones, precision missiles, electronic warfare, and fast mobility. The decision to modernize its coastal defenses reflects Denmark's belief that the Baltic Sea may become an active zone of military competition. New Danish missile batteries positioned along the straits could prevent hostile ships from passing through. Anti-submarine systems add another layer of defense, creating obstacles for any underwater activity from adversaries. These upgrades signal one clear message: Denmark is preparing for a future where the Baltic cannot be taken for granted as a peaceful region. The political side of Denmark's decision is equally significant. Denmark has announced stronger alignment with Finland and Sweden, forming a tighter northern cooperation framework within NATO. This isn't just symbolic. It involves shared operations, coordinated military drills, unified maritime strategies, and integrated defense planning. For decades, Denmark was cautious about leading major military initiatives in the Baltic. Now, Copenhagen has stepped up and taken a leadership role that many analysts say fills a gap in NATO's northern defense. This new cooperation strengthens NATO's ability to operate seamlessly across the region, from the Arctic to the Baltic. It increases deterrence, improves readiness, and reduces the response time if any threat emerges. Russia sees this as further proof that the Baltic Sea is turning into what many have already called a NATO-controlled lake. One of the more controversial aspects of Denmark's decision involves the potential restriction of access for certain ships. While Denmark has not directly announced a blockade or closure, it has introduced new regulations that could be used to halt vessels deemed suspicious or threatening. This includes new rules on inspections, monitoring, and maritime legal enforcement. These powers give Denmark the authority to stop, check, or slow any ship entering or leaving the Baltic if it is believed to pose a risk. While officially framed as a security measure, this has deep strategic implications. In a crisis, Denmark could use these powers to control or even fully block Russian naval movements. This possibility is exactly why the decision has caused such strong reactions. Economic implications are also huge. The Baltic Sea is a major route for energy supplies, trade, and shipping. Denmark's heightened control and security measures could slow shipping, increase inspection times, and raise operational costs. This affects Russia most, but it also impacts international cargo lines. Denmark believes that temporary economic strain is necessary to secure long-term regional stability. Supporters say the long-term benefits far outweigh the short-term disruptions. Critics, however, argue that increased militarization could escalate tensions and create instability instead of preventing it. This debate is ongoing, and Denmark's decision sits right in the middle of it. A deeper reason behind Denmark's shift is the growing concern over undersea infrastructure. The Baltic Sea is full of critical cables and pipelines that supply electricity, internet, and energy to multiple European countries. Recent incidents involving mysterious damage to pipelines and cables have alarmed governments. Denmark's decision includes new underwater patrols, drone surveillance, and sensor systems to watch over this vital infrastructure. Protecting undersea assets has become a top priority, and Denmark's move is seen as essential to preventing sabotage or covert attacks. With Europe becoming more dependent on stable energy and digital networks, the stakes have never been higher. Denmark's choice also sends a clear signal to NATO that it is ready to take on more responsibility. NATO's strategic planners have long argued that the Baltic region needed stronger coordination. Denmark stepping forward strengthens the alliance's position and fills a strategic gap. With Finland and Sweden now full members, the Baltic Sea's defense becomes easier to coordinate. Denmark's leadership ensures that the Straits, perhaps the most important point in the region, are secured with modern technology and strong political backing. Public reaction in Denmark has been mixed but increasingly supportive. Many Danes believe that the world is entering a more dangerous era and that strong national defense is necessary. Others worry that becoming more militarily active could drag Denmark into unintended conflicts. Government officials argue that ignoring the threats would be more dangerous than preparing for them. They highlight the need to protect Danish waters, trade routes, and national security interests. The Danish military has expressed confidence that these decisions will improve readiness and safety, not only for Denmark but for the entire region. International reactions have been strong. NATO allies praised Denmark for stepping up at a critical moment. Baltic states welcome the decision as a major boost to their security. Finland and Sweden expressed appreciation for the deeper cooperation. Russia, however, reacted sharply, calling Denmark's move provocative and destabilizing. Russian media described the decision as aggressive and warned that it would lead to further militarization. Analysts predict that Russia may increase naval activity in the region as a response or even strengthen its presence in Kaliningrad as a countermeasure. What Denmark has done is more than a simple defense update. It is a historic shift that acknowledges the growing risks in the Baltic Sea. The region is becoming one of the most strategically contested areas in Europe. With new NATO members, heightened tensions, vulnerable infrastructure, and military modernization, the Baltic Sea is no longer a quiet corner of Northern Europe. Denmark's decision recognizes this new reality and prepares for it. Whether this will prevent conflict or escalate tensions remains to be seen, but there is no doubt that Denmark's move has reshaped the region. As we look ahead, the impact of Denmark's decision will continue to unfold. This new posture gives NATO greater control, increases pressure on Russia, strengthens alliance cooperation, and adds new layers of security to vital maritime routes. It will influence naval strategies, diplomatic relations, trade flows, and regional stability. Denmark has positioned itself as a central player in the future of the Baltic Sea. This decision marks a turning point, one that will be studied for years by military planners and political analysts. The Baltic is changing rapidly, and Denmark has made it clear that it intends to shape that future, not simply react to it.